This week, we are sporting long hair and ears for hats as we finally discuss the band that so many people have been begging us to talk about. Seriously, this is by far the most requested fake band by people we know. More than Spinal Tap, more than The Commitments. So join us as we delve into the rock trio that conquered Persia, France, and perchance your heart. This is the Rocklopedia Fake Bandica. Welcome to the Rocklopedia Fake Bandica. I'm Charles. There's Alan.
Meow.
There's T-Mike.
Purr.
And so we're going to be talking about the band. You guys know what we're talking about, right?
Top
the band.
Cat.
The band, you know.
Snagglepuss.
Long hair, ears for hats.
Oh.
Charles, this is no time for person pats. Can we get on to the music?
The Beatles.
Guitars, the sharps, the flats.
Yes,
The Banana
yes, we met.
Splits?
We're talking about Josie and the Pussycats.
Woo!
Of course.
Cartoondom's answer to powerful trios like Rush, Cream, and the Fates, Clotho, Jesus, and Atropos. Did I say those right?
Who?
I don't know. I might have to get Tom in here for that. That's ancient Greek.
Can you guys think of any other trios?
Oh, power trios?
Yeah.
Well, Jimi Hendrix was basically a power
Yeah.
trio.
Nirvana.
Jimi Hendrix Experience was a power trio. Nirvana. Oh, yeah,
The
definitely.
Beastie Boys,
Cream.
Run DMC.
Cream. Yeah.
The Pogues when most of the band didn't show up.
The only part of the E Street band we care about.
Exactly, yeah.
No.
Charlie's Angels.
We'll get to the
and we'll
put a pin in that. We're
Charles.
going to
What?
come back to that
Hey,
later.
I don't say that anymore. That's all you guys now. Charlie's Angels. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Josie and the Pussycats and Charlie's Angels in one episode?
There is a link, yes.
Yes, there is.
All right. Josie and the Pussycats. May I point out that they're one of the bands that are on the cover
That's right.
of the Rocklopedia Fake Bandica. If you actually have the hard copy,
The Dead Tree version.
the Dead Tree version, you can see
Pull
Josie
it out.
and the Pussycats.
Well,
From
the book-
underneath your air conditioning window unit where
Or
it's
the-
keeping it from rattling.
Or that wobbly table.
Pull it out. Take a look.
Okay, so most people know Josie and the Pussycats from the 2001 film starring Rachel Lee Cook, Tara Reid, and Rosario Dawson. Or maybe from the 1970s animated series or from the Riverdale and Katie Keene shows on the CW. But Josie, Melody, and Valerie have a long, long history. I will handle the movie that people know about and leave the long, boring history to someone else.
Oh, long, boring history. That's my cue.
All right,
it
Professor.
is.
Yes, I love it.
Take it away, Professor.
So, Josie's history begins really in the pages of Archie Comics, which we don't really have time to get into. There's a huge long history there. It goes back to 39.
It's
and some of the-
insane how old this IP is.
Yes, it really is. And Archie, the actual Archie stuff is, and the people in his little world are back to 41.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he was like the beginnings of the U.S. engagement in World War
Yeah.
II. Yeah.
Were there
So-
episodes about them being having to worry about the
Drafted?
draft or
Yeah.
anything?
Jughead punches the Nazis, you know. Like, no,
I'd like to see a unit made up of unit of regulars. It's the Riverdale Regulars.
Yes.
You know?
Everybody, let's just follow Moose.
They could have gone the Beetle Bailey route. Beetle Bailey, the comic strip started off. He was just like a high school guy, and he got drafted, and he just left him drafted. He
And
just
now
like,
he
this is
never
a
left,
better
yeah.
this is a better idea. Let's just leave him in the army.
He's been in the army for 60 years.
He's a
something like
lifer,
that, yeah.
man.
80 years.
I like to think it was that, or he had to go to prison. That's why he joined the army.
So Josie and the Pussycats.
Doesn't it
Yes.
Pussycats? Yes. So and the reality is, and T-Mike will mansplain this in a second, but it actually there's actually some debate about where she appeared in comics first. So a lot of people will say
When you say she, you mean Josie.
Josie, yeah,
yes,
Josie
it's
herself,
Josie.
not just so
Because she appeared before the band.
Yes, there was an issue called Archie's Pals and Gals number 23, which was winter 1962, 1963. So a lot of people will put that down, but I've seen
As
other
her first
people
appearance,
as her
yeah.
first appearance. Other people saying that actually the comic came out basically at the same time, even though it's cover dated February. It was out
The
at basically
Josie comic.
the Josie
Or
comic.
She's Josie is the first title.
Yes.
Josie, yeah.
So whether it was Archie's Pals and Gals or a comic called She's Josie, this is really the first time that she was published. However,
But it actually starts in the late 50s, actually, Ellen, when Dan DeCarlo, the comic book guy who basically like defined the Archie's look and feel and style for like 40 years, he invented the character of Josie was based on his actual wife, a French-born model who was actually named Josie.
Ooh la la.
Ooh la la,
C'est
indeed.
bon.
and who wore a cat
Très chic.
suit.
She did.
She wore a cat suit on a Caribbean cruise, and then she got her hairstyle with a little bow in it, and he was like, "Oh, all the parts were there."
That's
So
the look, yeah. Well,
That's plagiarism.
I saw a picture. There's a picture. You can find a picture
Yeah.
of her in the cat suit online on the cruise ship.
So she actually was his muse for a lot of the time, but also he was mainly known before coming to Archie. He did pinup comics. He did like Millie the Model for the Marvel's predecessor, and when he was drafted in World War II, and he painted the pinup girls on the fronts of bombers.
Oh yeah.
So that might have been the last thing some German
fighter pilot
might have seen before he crashed into the North Sea. Was
So DeCarlo has a certain set of skills.
Yes, he has certain set of skills. Yeah. However, the idea that Josie predates the comics is contentious, and we'll get back to that later on.
Well, he invented her in the late 50s because he was already working on a comic strip called Willie Lumpkin, and he's looking for more work. So he came up with these two new comic strip ideas. One was called Here's Josie, about the character based on his wife. Another was called Barney's Beat, which whatever the heck that was, I don't know. He went to United Features, said they liked both.
Wait, so he had three comics.
Well,
one was something called Willie Lumpkin.
Willie Lumpkin was
one was
an
something called Barney's Beat.
Well, Willie's
and
Lumpkin
then
was
there's
already
one
going,
about a French model in a cat suit.
Well, she's an American
And
girl.
somebody probably said, more Lumpkin. Is that what they said?
They did.
Oh,
yes.
No, don't. He did not.
Lumpkin was already going.
What?
He picked. United Features, so they like both. Here's Josie and Barney's Beat, and DeCarlo kind of got spooked. He's like, whoa, wait a minute, I can't pull off the comic books I'm already working on, the comic strip I'm already working on, and add two more comic strips. So he backed off. He was like, no, never mind. And then Willie Lumpkin ended like a year later, and he's like, okay, well now I'll bring out Here's Josie, and I'll try it for a comic strip.
So he picked Lumpkin over the French model in the...
Yes, but then he picked Josie over Barney's Beat.
Or did he?
Well,
get your pin out, Charles, because we're putting a pin in that narrative.
Well, supposedly he went and
it has not been legally supported. I will just say that, and we'll come back to this later.
All right. Well, because what I've got is that he submitted the Josie comic strip like a year later, and they were like, no, we don't. Now we don't want it. And then he took it to Archie Comics, and Archie Comics was like, yeah, boom, let's do it.
So, however it came, there was it started up as She's Josie. And so she was in 1963, she got her first comic, and then it became Josie in December of 65. And then finally it became Josie and the Pussycats in December 1969. And so during that time, she was originally Josie Jones, and then sometimes she was also Josie James.
Okay.
So there was not a lot of consistency. After the movie, that they knocked it down to mostly being McCoy.
Right. She was McCoy in the movie.
Except for when she wasn't McCoy. So her name changes a lot depending on, I don't know.
I would have gone with Josie James because that's like Jesse James. That sounds cool.
Well, the weird thing was they had multiple things flipping back and forth because then Melanie, who's also in the band, Melody, who's also in the band, her name also alters around a lot too. So they weren't great with names.
No. So are there bank robbers?
Or they could be bank robbers. Yeah, they could have lots of identities. Yes, there could have been some identity theft. So in the 1969 issue, as that's when the band appeared, but the team that actually where there was other artists. Before,
right? No. The whole idea of Josie having a music career was nowhere evident at all in the early stages of the comic book.
No,
she's just a regular high schooler. She loves music though,
right?
And what happens is her boyfriend in the early part of the comic book called Albert is a character who basically disappears like halfway through the run. Her boyfriend is a regular guy named Albert. He's a regular high school student. But he slowly evolves into a slobby beatnik.
Right.
who plays the guitar and sings songs to her. And everyone thinks he's like a slobby mess, but she just loves his music. So
that is one thing actually Archie Comics is pretty good with. They respond to fashion changes and social fads. They were very good at that.
They were jumping on all these. Yeah, you see like them. And then here's another example, because they basically drop him completely. And then they introduce this new guy, Clyde Didit, who's this hippie.
That's the name they stuck with. They said the last name.
Yeah, they had no problem sticking with Didit. Clyde Didit. He's like this hippie, dippy, dumb boy, walking around barefoot with, a big white boy fro and strumming his guitar. And he actually ends up in a different comic as a member of a rock band called the Madhouse Glads, which they even had their own comic book for about 20 issues or so. And then there was also some other side characters. Yeah. The original had Valerie, Melody. Oh, sorry, not Valerie. No, sorry. Josie, Melody, Pepper.
And Pepper, yeah. So the original conception was Melody was a blonde, Josie was a redhead, and Pepper had dark hair. And so brunette, she was kind of like the Velma, essentially. Like she was like the brainy one.
Yeah, she had glasses, short hair. She was
and her boyfriend Socrates, or Socks, as they call him.
Socks was his nickname.
So he has weirdly shown up in other plays, and actually Pepper has come back too in like as kind of weird throwbacks in some of the reboots they've done, but they're mostly gone.
Yeah, basically they just disappear.
But
they
Josie
just disappear.
Josie is a high school student like Archie.
Yeah,
the gang.
So she goes to the same school essentially.
Okay, but in all of these, she's a high school.
Right. And then right before the band started, they introduced Alan M. Mayberry, who a lot of times they'll just refer to him as Alan M. Yes. So he's like a hunky folk singer, and he kind of was like. So in August, he shows up there, and then.
The hilarious thing is like they're still not having Josie having a band. They're having Alan get a band.
Right.
Alan and the Jesters was starting up with some of the regular characters, and then they dropped that completely.
Yeah, because that was like, who cares? So yeah, nobody loves people named Alan. Anyway. But they also had in there was Alexandra. So she's been in there from the beginning. Alex and Alexandra Cabot.
They're basically Reggie. Yeah. The rich jerk characters.
Yeah, they're Reggie and Veronica, essentially, if you've ever read the Archie comics.
The other Archie comics, yeah.
So Alexandra was like the mean girl character who may or may not have had magic powers.
She got them. They developed later. So they did some history. They have like a whole story where Alex looks up some of the family history, and they discover that one of their ancestors was a witch.
Right.
And so then they find his portrait in their family, like how all rich people have a family portrait gallery dating back hundreds of years, of course. And they find his portrait, and he has the same skunk hair with the white streak down the middle as Alexandra does. And the same cat is in the portrait that she has, which also has a white streak down it like a skunk.
White streak. You know what? That's actually called poliosis.
Poliosis. Thank you, Alan.
Anyway, so yes, Alexandra. So
they discover that they think the cat is a reincarnation of the witch ancestor, and that when you pet the cat and say a magic spell, then magic happens.
But if someone snapped their fingers nearby,
the spell was broken,
which is a problem when you're like hanging on a band. So
right, or 60s, a bunch of hip '60s teens always snapping their fingers.
But they dropped a lot of the witchcraft stuff in the comic for a long time. They may have brought it back in the reboots, but they never made the jump to the show. And I'm pretty sure it's not in the movie.
It's not in the movie.
No.
So Alexandra, actually, in the issue where they start the band, she wanted to be the bass player. So the original plan was to have her be the bass player.
Okay.
And except that she wanted to name the band Alexandra's Cool Time Cats.
Okay, that sounds great.
That's a terrible name. So they said, no, thank you. So they invited Valerie, who was
sounds
the
like
new girl.
An animatronic band you would have at a pizza place.
Yes.
Which is a whole nother show of
exactly, yeah.
Our animatronic pizza restaurant band's show is going to be off the hook, though.
So Valerie Smith at the time, she later became Valerie Brown, but she was like the one African-American member of the group. She was there from the beginning, so she came in as
it's actually member. Alexander Cabot, the brother/manager, brings her in after his sister storms out, because they have a very contentious relationship, Alexander and Alexandra.
And I think in the more recent, like in Riverdale or Katie Keene, I think that they might collaborate more. But yeah, in the comics they were always very competitive, although they were also always trying to break up Josie because he wanted to date Josie and she wanted to date
Alan M.
Alan M. Yeah. So anyway, Josie and the Pussycats, number 45, is the first one that has title with that band name.
Right.
And so there's a lot of internet lore. You'll see this repeated a lot, that Archie Comics didn't want Valerie to be black. And from what I've seen in readings of that was not really something Don DeCarlo just drew it. And he was like, that wasn't really an issue, in that it actually was, according to an interview that Danny Jansen did in 2011, it was actually Hanna-Barbera when they were doing the adaptation. They were the one who were like, hey, we want to have this just be 3 white girls.
Yeah.
But he'd already hired Patrice Holloway to sing the main theme, and he was like, no, I want this.
And Danny Jansen was the music producer for the TV series.
Yes, he was. And he also was the guy who wrote Come On Be Happy for the Partridge Family.
Right, so he's got a two fake band
He
connection.
might be possible Hall of Fame, I don't know.
We have
It's
to
very Paul Williams-esque.
investigate.
It is very Paul Williams-esque, yes.
Investigate his further interactions.
But to their credit, I mean, Archie Comics has always been fairly progressive. I mean, they're terrible in terms of keeping track of last names, which, you know, you could do with
How hard is that? Write it down, have a
piece of
list.
notebook paper taped to the
Jeez.
wall.
I'm the same way. I got to meet somebody 3 times before I remember their name. So I totally get that.
I mean,
Fine.
okay, Dave, I understand that, but Dan, Doug,
Carl, please, we're trying to talk here.
I'm Charles.
Denver,
That's Tammy.
okay.
Tamika.
Tamika, okay. So yeah, Archie Comics, I mean, so they were the ones who actually were okay with it. But let's not go nuts cheering on Archie Comics for being progressive, because Valerie came about 3 years after Black Panther. So, I mean, Marvel Comics already had it. I mean, she did beat Jon Stewart in DC Comics by about a year.
The African-American Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and of course there was actually in the 40s, there was a all Negro comics, and there was multiple comic strips starring that had black characters.
Well, a lot of them were horrible stereotypes, though.
Well, no, these were one done by black people.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
These were not like, we're not talking like pardon the term, but they called it coon comics or whatever that.
Yeah.
But no, these were ones done by black artists and writers and whatever, and they appeared in things like the Amsterdam News, but they weren't really super powered or whatever, or they didn't play bass. So Valerie there.
Ouch.
So,
it is a bit of a stereotype, bit on the nose, people.
I don't know. I mean, it is funny that, at least in the show, you always heard this bass line, and there's Valerie playing tambourines.
Yeah, see, that's the mistake I think they made, is like, why did they put it in the TV show? Why tambourines? Why didn't actually give her an instrument that you're hearing in the soundtrack?
I don't know.
Keyboard. They could have done keyboard. That's easy to animate.
Anyway.
I did the movie. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, well.
So it is worth noting that that the very first issue of She's Josie was all had a fitness theme, and the main story was how Melody got banned from phys ed class because her physique was like turning on all the boys.
Oh, well, that's half the comics.
And that's what happened to you, T-Mac, right?
Oh, it was tragic, yes. I was also banned from phys ed class because of my physique.
Turning on all the boys, yes.
No.
Bringing all the boys to the yard?
I was more disgust.
Oh, okay. Well, you know. But
I thought you were the before picture.
Yeah.
But it is funny if you look at what's going on around there, because
no, it's very sexist. The comics were totally sexist, and every boy is girl crazy.
Yeah.
And
She's Josie came out in February 1963. And what also came out in February 1963?
What?
The first edition of The Feminine Mystique.
Oh,
so,
by
Betty Friedan.
Betty Friedan, the feminist tome.
Yeah, like the second wave of feminism really kicked off then. So this was...
So you buy them together.
Yeah, you buy them together, yeah. So they got an A on race representation. They got an F on gender.
Yeah.
But that's still a C.
C's get degrees.
C's get degrees, people, you know?
Hey, it's not the grades you make, but the hands you shake. That's what I heard.
Oh, nice. That's good.
All right.
Anyway, once the comic became just Josie and the Pussycats, it really settled down into like a very predictable rhythm. And so it was like the band was on tour. They're constantly on tour. They traveled around the world for shows, and they'd always be accompanied by their manager, Alex. And then for some reason, he brought his sister along just for the hell of it.
Who was always trying to, break
them up.
Break Alan, M, and Josie up.
Yeah.
Well, and they're still in high school, though.
Yeah, they're still in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. And Alex is wildly incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually, I was writing this, I was thinking that I think we mentioned that there's like the occasional thing of halfway competent band manager, like the one who in our Sweet Valley High, like the guy who was like trying to help the cancer hospital. But like, other than Ian in Spinal Tap, I can't think of any. It's like such a trope is that these fake bands, they have these terrible managers.
Was Reuben Kincaid, was he somewhat competent from the Partridge Family?
I have to go back and look at that one. He seemed like kind of hapless in a way. I don't know.
What
And I think
about your
I think-
Ruddles and Leggy Mountbatten?
I think we need to table this for a manager episode. I think we need to have like a full on episode on rock managers.
So
Did
that's
you-
moving beyond putting a pin in it.
I was going to
Yes.
say, you guys are putting pins and tables everywhere.
Well, let's draw the curtains on this topic and
Okay.
move on. So anyway,
Let's
so,
fluff the cushions for a second. And we
So I'm assuming that Alan N was their opening act because they would always try to break them up because this was like they were always there. And so it was just sort of one of those weird things is like, yeah, this is the band you booked and here's the manager who's along for, I guess he's also a road manager.
Yeah.
And then also here's his sister and she has a cat and she sometimes has magic powers. So.
And also the lead singer's boyfriend.
And the lead singer's boyfriend. It is just, it was a little odd, but almost all of the comics had basically that same rhythm. And so it was popular.
Yeah.
But more importantly was Filmation had licensed the Archie kids a couple years before and they put out the Archie show, which,
Had the band The Archies.
yeah, which ran from 1968 until about 1978 in different incarnations. And it was like, it was a first run on CBS for like about 3 years. And then it had specials and syndication stuff.
Right,
for a
and
long
they
time.
had a huge bubblegum hit with Sugar Sugar.
Sugar, oh honey, you are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you.
Oh yeah, it was number one song.
Yeah, so there's a lot of incentive to like, we got to find some other fake bands.
I know the kids and their crazy rock and roll. All
Exactly.
those
So
weirdo
Josie
kids.
the Pussycat seems like a really safe bet IP wise.
Yeah. And so, but the other thing was Hanna-Barbera was like, well, wait a minute, Filmation got this hit. We have to compete. I mean, they were like kind of, I guess, the Coke and Pepsi of the animation world at the time is that they were always competing for IP. And so they licensed the Josie and the Pussycats thing, which actually does explain why there's never a Archie's Josie and the Pussycat crossover in the animated world.
Right. In the
Oh,
Yeah.
the
So,
animated
yeah.
world.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned that there's a comic book where they meet Hanna and Barbera.
Oh, well, yes. So actually, in the comic book world, them getting a TV show is actually part of the comic book. They actually go to the Hanna-Barbera studios and meet Mr. Hanna and Mr. Barbera, who have caricatures of themselves drawn, and talk about how they're going to get their new animated TV show aired on CBS. And they have in fact, it's on like one of the covers of the comic book is like, they sing a little jingle about them you'll watch us coming up on TV on CBS.
Kids are all excited to see Mr. Hanna and
Yeah,
Mr.
you know.
Barbera in their comic book.
Well,
Doesn't hurt to grease the palms a little.
For a
grease
more
the wheels.
recent reference, you guys may remember in the early 2000s when all the Spider-Man comics were about the wrangling about intellectual property, and they had all this meeting with lawyers, and it
Absolutely,
was
yes.
multiple times of Spider-Man sitting down there saying, like, "What do you mean you can't have my face in this MCU? What are you talking about?" But yeah, it was actually kind of a weird thing where it's very similar to the Spider-Man and universe and the Marvel universe is that licensing stuff. So they had to kind of negotiate all these things. So in the animated world, Josie's in the same world as Scooby-Doo. And so there was a crossover episode with Scooby-Doo. And which is funny because Casey Kasem actually voiced both Alex Cabot and Shaggy.
Oh.
So
it's a
and
shame we never got to see them talking to each other.
They do.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
Oh
But
my God.
In the crossover thing, there's a large amount of them chatting with each other.
Holy
It's like
Crowley.
it's one of those things that makes you realize that, boy, Casey Kasem's not great with voices. I mean, they don't sound exactly the same, but if I had my eyes closed, I would not be able to follow this. You can see this on YouTube. It's kind of fun. So
Well, how did I know that Dixie Queen was a junkyard reject and that it was haunted? Haunted? The Dixie Queen is not haunted. Who said that?
Yeah, and Josie and the Pussycats were supposed to go further into
the Laugh Olympics, yeah.
the Hanna-Barbera world. They were supposed to be part of the Laugh Olympics.
Right.
Oh, I
series.
loved the Laugh Olympics. Who is your team?
Oh, I don't know. I think
Yogi Yahooies. That's who I like.
Yogi Yahoo.
I think I was a Scooby Doobies because I liked
Because they always won.
Who was the bad guys?
The really rottens.
Yeah.
Really rock.
No, I think because I liked the Blue Falcon and Dino Mutt. I
Oh,
believe they were
I actually
on,
did like that crazy
yeah.
show.
Grape Ape was on
Lordy.
the Yogi Yahooies.
Yes.
But it always ended up Scooby Doobies would always win.
Mm.
Like they would win like 90% of the time. And then the other time was usually split between the Yogi Yahooies and the really rottens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, just because we've lost a lot of our audience. Skibbity toilet. Yeah, skibbity toilet. Woo!
Scooby Doobies.
Okay, anyway.
You are so Ohio.
I know.
Anyway,
yes.
so they were supposed to be part of Laugh Olympics, but they were in like some early artwork, but then there was a licensing legal issue and they didn't actually appear, so they dropped it.
But honestly, I think we can all agree the best thing about this show is undoubtedly the theme song.
Theme song's great.
Absolutely.
Josie and the Pussycats, long tails and ears perhaps, guitars and sharps and flaps, neat, sweet, a groovy song, you're invited, come along. Hurry, hurry, see all the pleasure, or maybe friends, we could be an ninja or the chance, be with us and thank God, makes no difference everywhere the action's at, we're involved with this or that. Come on along now, Josie and the Pussycats. No time for purge and pass. Won't run when they hear scat. They're where the plot begins. Yeah, yeah. Come on, what's the good guys win? Josie and the Pussycats. Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah, I mean, that is like, everyone just hit the rewind thing on your, whatever MP3
Smartphone.
player, smartphone. Let's hear that again.
No, just one time though. Don't get stuck in a loop. Just do it one time.
Isn't that great? Let's hit rewind.
No, we're good. We're all good.
No.
Okay,
So
anyway, so that was Patrice Holloway singing, and so she didn't actually voice Valerie's lines in the show. I didn't actually realize that they had different singing and
right, the singing voices were
speaking
different
voices,
from that Patrice Holloway was the lady that Jansen went up to bat for.
Yeah,
he was like, no, they wanted what's crazy is like Hanna-Barbera said like we want to do 3 white girls, and he's like, and so the implication was like you have to get rid of this African American singer and replace her with a white singer,
right,
for a cartoon voiceover that no one is going to know anyway, but like it's extra racist really.
Yeah.
But he held firm and was like no, and they caved, and they caved so hard they actually turned the character Valerie back to her African American origin, which they should have.
I mean, one of the things that he said that he really pitched for was he said he wanted like kind of Motown derived, more like kind of he was the original conception was early. Was the kind of early Motown, like Jackson 5
it's
stuff.
if you listen to the songs, it's totally Jackson 5.
Well, part of that is because I guess apparently he got a good rep and among the local music community. And so a lot of like fairly well-known soul and R&B session musicians would basically work for free.
Yeah, well, they heard they heard what he did for Patrice Holloway, and they were like, right on, brother. Yeah. And pardon my French. and showed up to like support him. So that was great.
So Valerie was actually voiced by Barbara Perrio, who doesn't really seem to have done a huge amount other than that, but she was actually the first black main character in an American animated show. And Janet Waldo, which I mentioned in the Gibberish episode, she did the voice for Judy Jetson. She also voiced Josie. Mm-hmm. And her singing voice was Kathy Dorr. And then that just leaves Melody Valentine, who was the drummer. She actually mainly kept the same last name for most of the thing, which, by the way. Her speaking voice was Jackie Joseph, who actually she played the original Audrey on Little Shop of Horrors and
the first black and white version?
The black and white one, the Roger Corman one. But she has a fake band connection. She was the girlfriend of Ernest T. Bass in the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Romina, I believe was her name. So she shows up there in like one episode, but it's just kind of a fun thing. But what's more interesting is Melody's singing voice. Does anyone want to guess who it was? Do anyone want to read from the notes?
I could read from the notes. No, just tell us. Just tell us who it is.
It was the Cheryl Jean Stoppelmore of South Dakota.
Woo!
Okay.
Cheryl Jean Stoppelmore.
Who doesn't love?
I have no idea who that is.
Oh, you probably know her by her acting name of Cheryl Moore.
Oh, Cheryl Moore.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe the name she adopted after she stopped trying to become a recording artist and got married. Cheryl Ladd.
Dun dun dun.
The Charlie's Angels.
Charlie's Angels pin. Pull that pin out. We are
Chris
here.
Monroe.
That's right.
Played the role of Chris Monroe in the ABC television series Charles Angels. That was a huge. absolutely massive show in the late 1970s.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Ruined the Ruddles' chances of ever getting big in the 1970s when the Ruddles special was aired.
That and the Ruddles just
against
aren't a
it.
top tier fake band.
It was a bad decision, basically. Poor
So Cheryl
thought.
Ladd was in Josie and the Pussycats and Charlie's Angels.
Yes, she was. Yeah.
She was a singing voice.
But more importantly, that the three singing voices actually were a real Josie and the Pussycats band. Just like the Archies, they made a band that recorded and went on tours. They actually made this band. And so
I thought they were going to put them on tour, but because it didn't do well enough.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Well, Holloway, Dora, and Ladd, they were the real life Josie and the Pussycats. They released one album, Josie and the Pussycats, from the Hanna-Barbera TV show, which is, it's just
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, it really does. I think that it's not well known, but that was actually the original subtitle of Master of Puppets. So yeah, it's
From the Hanna-Barbera
TV show. Yes.
Interesting.
But it was in late 1970 and released a total of 6 singles. Well, they released 2 singles and then 4 singles you could get via mail order from Kellogg's, which is great.
Call me crazy, but
You're crazy.
Thanks. Distributing records through the back of cereal boxes doesn't seem like
Well, no, this was not the ones.
A short ticket to fame and stardom.
The Archies did it, and actually, the Archies you had to cut out from the back of it.
That's true. They used
these were mail order. These are mail order.
There was like some kind of we missed like some kind of magic golden age of TV related cereal prizes. Like I mean, you could get all kinds of great plastic junk inside.
Charles
boxes.
and I were too
you could
young.
Get records.
You were too old.
Those sound like choking hazards.
Yes,
We could, not for our
Not
age.
allowed. Not allowed.
Tim, during the heyday of that, Charles and I were still eating baby food, and you were well on to bran strips.
Yeah, well,
whatever they were.
I lost all my teeth. What
Yeah,
else could I eat?
exactly. But one of the songs was this one. That's Inside, Outside, Upside Down, which is actually a great song.
No, there's some good songs in
Jansen co-wrote that, and they had some really solid songs in there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, none of the singles or the album charted at all.
No, well, I read that it was mostly on Capitol Records who was doing the album, and Jansen basically blamed them completely because it's like they did no promotion, and they weren't. He actually said something. I was reading the liner notes, and basically went on to complain that they basically sucked at promotion because they had the Beatles and they didn't felt they have to do any promotion because the Beatles basically promoted themselves.
Right.
They just waited for the Beatles to hand them a record and then everybody bought it because it was the Beatles. So
they never went on tour. And then in Josie and the Pussycats in Space, which was the second season of the show.
Right. 72, I think.
Yeah. So they did the original 1970 to 1971 was the first Josie and the Pussycats, and then they reran it for a year, and then they did another season of 16 more episodes. So there's only 32 episodes.
Okay.
So
It's a hell of a retooling.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Really.
very odd retooling, but
And the other crazy thing is I watched the first episode of the In Space one to help refresh my memory for this thing, and there's pretty much no explanation in universe as to why they're now in space.
They never explain why these high school girls are in space now.
In the opening, they're like standing in front of the rocket, in front of the door, and then in the spacesuits, and then Alexandra like trips and knocks everybody into the capsule, and they hit a button and it takes off.
Josie in outer space, Pussycats on all these plays. Acting off on another chase, on a Milky Way when they're grooving, who can say? Buckle up your seatbelts, they could be in orbit in the stars on a spooky planet, maybe Mars. There's no way of knowing when they're grooving way above.
that's like, well, why were you standing in front of the door in spacesuits in the first place if you don't know how to fly this thing? Like maybe it was like a promo shot or
who knows? I mean,
and then they were just going to like dress as astronauts and then get their picture taken and like, hey, we're doing a space themed album and suddenly, but then they're in space.
This is kind of like far out space nuts levels of technology where there's like a launch button.
It's next to the lunch button
inside the capsule. Yeah,
yes.
But anyway, the show
it's actually exactly like that too, because they just like go or like Lost in Space where like, oh, there's like 500 planets in this solar system that for us to land on.
I mean, the show plots of the original one were pretty similar to the comics in terms of they were like on tour and then they run into like supervillains or witches or spies or criminals or kidnappers or monster plants, you know, the usual indie band tour nonsense, you know, kind of stuff you hear about all the time, like Archers of Loaf, they got caught by a kidnapper, you know,
so often.
The Arcade Fire, and they have to find the person who's like trying to, you know, blackmail the town and all this stuff like that.
Well, basically all these shows, Hanna-Barbera shows, were ripping off Scooby-Doo. Like, there were so many clones at the time. The Funky Phantom, Amazing Chan Clan, Goober and the Ghost Chasers. Anyone? Clue Club, Buford and the Galloping Ghost.
What?
None of which
You're
have
making
fake
those
bands.
up.
No,
you're making those up.
Well, they actually they made Charlie Chan and the Chan Clan had a
That's
fake
right.
band.
They had a fake band, and then they actually showed up again in a episode of Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law.
Right.
And
I think actually there was a Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids.
There is. Yeah, they had
that was another fake band. So they tried it a few more times.
So, but yeah, they did. I mean, they basically dropped the whole tour thing when they went into space. They kind of just went to random planets. It was
probably tough to try to get tour dates. They didn't know where to go.
So, yeah.
It's like,
fortunately, they brought they did bring their instruments somehow.
Yeah,
so fortunately, there was that.
They would still have the music from the albums, but it was like, and a lot of times they were still doing the thing where they're like a long hallway running in and out of doors and whatever.
Oh man, that was like half of all Hanna-Barbera series at the time. It was like the song plays, people run around indoors. I blame Hard Day's Night. For this. They basically set a template that, you know, every Hanna-Barbera cartoon just copied and like, let's just run around while the song plays.
The show got rerun on Saturday morning TV for most of the rest of the 70s, and then the comic book went on until 1982.
That's kind of surprising, really.
Yeah, I mean, the IP was pretty dormant. I mean, they had periodic reboots of the comic strip in terms of specials. They would have specials on, and then like since the movie,
special episodes, not episodes, special issues.
Yeah, and then since the movie, and Tim, I can talk about this a little bit. They had some of these like reworkings in the comics, and you can kind of see how that played out in terms of like, you know, Riverdale is a reworking of Archie comic stuff too, but we'll get to that in a second. But it was pretty much dormant until it was chosen to spark the libidos of a new generation of feline aficionados. So I think this might be a nice little time for a break, Charles.
Well, let's take a break. Why don't we? This is the Rocklopedia Fake Bandica. And we are back. Time to talk about the finest film to come out of 2001. Well, except for the Royal Tenenbaums. And Monsters, Inc. and Moulin Rouge, that was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Shrek, Spirited Away, I think that was 2001.
Really?
The first Fast and the Furious.
The new iteration,
Ocean's 11, that was then. Harry Potter. Oh, Harry Potter was that's cool.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yeah. Oh, okay, so it was the finest film that was, well, it was better than Pearl Harbor.
It was better than Pearl Harbor,
definitely, yeah.
Even though it made about $434 million less than Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's shocking how much money that made.
Wow.
It is much better than Pearl Harbor.
You know, actually, before we get to the film, I just want to like jump backwards like just a slight month or so. Before the film, the Cartoon Network had been rerunning the Josie and the Pussycats and Josie and Pussycats in Space episodes. And one of the great things about Cartoon Network back in the day was they would make these little shorts featuring these classic cartoon characters and have them like do new stuff. And so one of the things they came up with was a short called Musical Evolution featuring Josie and the Pussycats.
Josie and the Pussycats, long tails and ears for hats, guitars and sharps and flats, sweet groovy songs, your body come along. Hurry, hurry, see all the pleasure on every plan. We're ninja, all the chance, with us a finger, that's a
I like how T Mike frames it as this like benevolent thing and not like we have this crap we can reuse. We made all these C-Lab 2020 and we got nothing to do with the crap anymore. Let's use it up. Yeah, what if we use this? Like Alex Toth can't sue us for this Space Ghost crap we're redoing. Let's do that.
Sorry, all right. Well, you don't like that?
I love Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I love that kind of stuff. But you're framing it as like it's this wonderful party thing they did. They're doing it as a favor. It's like no, they're making money off of dead media.
Yeah, but I mean, like they're also like giving these characters a little bit of a new life, and they're not just like rerunning them into the ground. They actually did something with them new.
Yeah.
But then later they did a movie where our favorite band struggles to keep it real in the high-stakes world of pop music and consumerism.
Ooh.
So the movie starts with the world's hottest band, and it's not the Pussycats. The hottest band in the world is Du Jour, a four-man boy band.
Oh, yes.
They're flying around. First they did a concert on the tarmac before they hit their jet. And one of the things
the private jet.
Right. And one of the things with the movie is because it's a lot about consumerism, there are like logos for companies everywhere. Their private jet is all Target.
It's pretty funny, just in the background kind of gag.
Yeah. And the thing is, with this movie, they did not. Those aren't product placements,
right?
They chose that to show the consumers. So this is free ads for Target that they're in the Target plane.
What's funny?
Yeah, they didn't get any money for this.
Right.
No.
If you look at the reviews at the time, the contemporary reviews are hilarious because like, oh my god, there's so much product placement in this, and it's like, well, no.
That's the gag. That's the joke.
If they had done product placement, they could have paid for the movie it's on its own.
Yeah, they wouldn't have needed an audience at all.
Right, because
they would have good because they didn't get one.
They didn't. They
it
got
was
it
a bomb, tragic.
But anyway, Du Jour is on the Target plane, and they're talking with their manager, Wyatt Frame.
Played by Alan Cumming,
who's hilarious. He does a great job, and he loves just vamping to the camera. Yeah. He milks this camp so well. But the band starts asking him innocently why there's a special track on their hit song. Well, it turns out it's subliminal messaging. But the manager doesn't want to tell them that. He tells them he's going to get answers for them, and so then he leaves the compartment to go to to talk to the pilot. And then he and the pilot parachute away, leaving the band to crash and hopefully kill the plane to crash and kill the whole boy band.
That seems a bit dramatic.
Well, they know.
It is a movie.
Now that they know, it's time to get rid of them and on to the next one.
All right.
Meanwhile, in Riverdale, the Pussycats, which are Josie McCoy, Melody Valentine, and Valerie Brown, they are rocking out.
I'm a punk rock prom queen, brown paper magazine, hotter than you've ever seen, everywhere and in between. I'm a 10 ticket through ride, don't you wanna come inside? A 5-star triple threat, hardest of the hard to get, no one's little record bed, easy nothing let me get. 6 whole hours and 5 long days for all your lies to come undone. And those 3 small words were way too late, 'cause you can't see that I'm the one.
At a bowling alley to less than enthused bowlers. They made $20, but they had to pay for shoe rentals, so they only made $5.
No.
So some high school girls that they know came by, told them that they suck. Usual day for the Pussycats. And they are the Pussycats now.
Right.
That's their name. They're not Josie and the Pussycats. They are the Pussycats.
Okay.
But they're plucky, and they vow to rise to the top.
Have they got Moxie?
They're just plucky.
Oh.
Moxie comes later.
Oh, okay.
Landing outside of Riverdale, Wyatt Frame begins searching for the replacement band to Du Jour. And he almost literally hits them with his car. He finds the Pussycats, and they are going to be the next band that he makes his subliminal money machine,
right.
I guess. So without hearing them play, Frame offers them a lucrative record deal, and the group, they're skeptical for like a minute. And then they're like, oh, well, it is a huge contract. Let's go. And so they accept the offer, and they're soon being flown to New York with their manager, Alexander Cabot, and his sister, Alexandra, and Josie's love interest, Alan M., who she brings in as guitar tech.
Right.
So like you said, they all travel for
They
their
kind of just
shows.
randomly are there.
Yeah.
Now, we know why the manager is there. We know why Alan M. is snuck in
Right.
there. So Alexander turns to his sister. He goes, why are you on this plane? And she delivers this wonderful line. I'm in the comic books.
It's so weird. It's such a fourth wall breaking line.
I just loved it. Just
Yeah.
like,
It
they're
really just like we saw this I remember seeing this in the theater, and I was like, my head just kind of spun for a moment.
there's no reason for her to be on this plane, and she's just like enthusiasm. I think they called her.
Yeah.
Like, why are you this way? Because I'm in the comic books. Perfect. But so okay, then they do the big makeover for the band, and the manager renames them Josie and the Pussycats. Like when they get into town,
I believe that's being called Edie Brickeld.
Oh,
They were, so you pull out the lead singer for no real good reason,
well,
They
went into the hair salon as the Pussycats. They
Right.
left their Josie and the Pussycats, and in fact, in Times Square, there's a huge Josie and the Pussycats billboard already.
Ooh.
They've been in this town for 30 minutes. There's already a giant billboard.
Wow.
Well, this is why Andrew White is one of the top managers in the industry.
Oh yeah, he does a great job. But they change it, and the band is a little uncomfortable. But hey, let's go with it, right? Now,
Sorry, Wyatt Frame. I got
Wyatt Frame, right? At this point, we're going to meet Fiona, who's the CEO of Mega Records. She's meeting with world government representatives, talking about the subliminal messaging in pop music to get teenagers into buying a new trend each week, to get that sweet babysitter money that's been kept out of the economy. They have a special in-house video that's done by Eugene Levy explaining the whole plot about these kids have lawn mowing money and babysitting money, and it's untaxed, and the government can't get their hands on it, so they need to add subliminal messages into the pop music so that the kids go out and spend. And
I do want to just mention, in case anyone's wondering,
Hamptons did it.
this is very similar to the Inaj Niaj or whatever.
Oh,
they
yeah.
joined the Navy
boy-
backwards.
They came out about this movie and that episode came out about 2 months apart from each other.
Yeah.
The subliminal messages tells kids
Oh,
to
you're
go
right.
buy
It's
things.
2001, February 25.
Okay.
They tell them to go buy
So, yeah,
things. There's a lot of
never going to talk over Charles.
X is the new Y, basically. A lot.
Right.
Diet Coke is the new Pepsi One was one of their lines. There's a lot of new. Skittles is the new M&Ms, and that's what the kids are saying as they go up and buy things. And then there's time to give these artists the du jour treatment. They give them a whirlwind of photo shoots and interviews and music recording. And the band's first single is Pretend to Be Nice.
Well, he looks at me with those innocent eyes and says it looks like you're wearing some kind of disguise because your hair sticks up, your shoes are untied. I hope that you got that shirt at half price and every word I say falls flat on the floor. I try to tell a joke, he's heard it before, and I don't think that I can take it no more. He's driving me right out my front door. Why do you do what you do to me, baby? You're shaking my confidence, driving me crazy. You know if I could, I'd do anything for you. Please don't ignore me, cause you know I adore you. Can you just pretend to be nice? Can you at least pretend to be nice? You could just pretend to be nice.
And it flies to number 1 on the charts, which is not bad, as they point out, for their first week.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Their first week, they're already on the cover of every magazine, and they have the number 1 song. Just because we're thorough here, the number 2 song was Get Your Model On by C. Riley and Jake.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3 that week was Missing Sneakers by M. Hampson.
I think I remember, it's been a while. You watched the movie for this one. I watched the shows instead. But as I recall, there's like a huge long scan of the top of the chart flashing by. And if you paused it, I could probably pull out another dozen or more fake names and songs. But
I
let's not
did
do
not
that.
pause it. I just watched the movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of a disappointment to our listeners that you didn't watch the movie, T. Mike, and do
Well,
this extra bit of work.
I watched it when it came out. So
so that's good enough, I guess.
yes,
Well,
yes, it is.
Valerie
You have to settle for that.
Valerie is starting to resent all the attention Josie's getting. And she's watching a behind the music, you remember from VH1?
Yeah.
The
Oh,
Young
yeah.
Geek songs? Watching an episode about a band that went through something similar. The band's name, The Chief, Tennille, and Captain.
Wait a minute.
Eddie the Chief Jones talks about how the Captain basically stole everything from him and took the band away. How the Chief and Tennille used to write all the songs and plan out everything. Babyface, you know Babyface?
Oh, yeah.
He actually plays the Chief.
The Chief.
wow,
Okay, that's
okay.
fun.
And they showed
Well, he produced the soundtrack album
Yeah,
too.
he did.
well, they show a lot of photos of him with a giant Indian headdress, and then Captain and Tennille together.
Wow.
But the captain basically pushed him out to make Captain and Tennille.
Wow.
And so Valerie's like, oh, that could happen to me. I could be the chief in all of this. I could be
Ooh.
pushed out. So the band, starts asking little questions about, well, wait a minute, why are there, the songs, what's going on with these extra tracks, and what's going on with Josie being pushed this way and the rest of us pushing that way. So the label gets proactive. So first they decide the best thing to do is to have Valerie and Melody just killed. Just get them killed and get a new band for Josie and just start over. So if you're going to kill two members, you do it how else would you do it? You would put them on a fake TRL episode with Carson Daly, and a Carson Daly impersonator who was Arius Spears. Do you know who he is?
No.
He's a black comedian who does like Eddie Murphy, but he's doing Carson Daly. And Carson Daly's like, well, Carson Daly, I'm not black. And he's like, oh, so Carson Daly can't be a black guy. And he was like, well, he can if he's not here and I'm here. But anyway, they decide those two have baseball bats and are going to beat Valerie and Melody to death. Because that's the most efficient way to kill two members that you want to do.
With the Carson Daly impersonator.
And with Carson Daly.
And Carson Daly. Wow.
But they're too inept to kill these women, and the women get away. Meanwhile, Wyatt has Josie at the hotel suite. And she's like, I want to go see Alan M. He's got his first big gig in the city. And I want to go watch it. And Wyatt goes, well, his show is canceled, so you can't go. And you need to stay home and listen to this new single and give us your notes. The new single is You Don't See Me, but in it are all subliminal messages directed strictly to her, saying she's the star and she needs to lose the other two. And that starts causing friction. The band meets up again, and Josie is all swayed by the messaging and tells the bandmates off, and they storm off. Even though they survived the killing, now they're ready to leave the band now. So they storm off, and Josie wanders around going, I'm so much better than there, until finally she gets the song shaken out of her head or something, and she realizes something's wrong with it. And she brings in Alexander and Alexandra to go look at the tracks with her.
Right.
And they discover the subliminal messaging telling her she's so great. She's like, I've been fooled this whole time. So at the same time, Mega Records is doing. You have something, Alan?
It's shocking how close they came to the actual evil rapaciousness of a real record company. I mean, it's almost like real life that, some of the things they're doing in here. I mean,
especially when you remember when Kurt Cobain was killed by that Carson Daly impersonator. I'm sorry. Just cut that out. Just cut that bit out.
No, I think we're going to leave that part. But so Mega Records, they're putting this giant pay-per-view concert together. And it's going to be streamed online, and they're going to unleash this huge campaign of subliminal messaging. And kids, to listen to the concert, have to buy Josie the Pussycat cat-eared headphones.
Oh, okay.
These special headphones they have to listen to.
Good branding.
Just to kind of pump it in their ears, Fiona and Wyatt plan for Josie to perform solo. But then the band insists on performing together. The pair holds Melody and Valerie hostage, threatening to kill them in a staged car explosion, which they already have the MTV News report ready to go.
Oh, nice.
If they don't comply.
This is like total like weird little geek memory thing, but around this, right before this movie came out, there was the Q Cat. Do you guys remember that?
So you're sitting at your computer with your new Q Cat from Radio Shack. Now you can access web pages even easier and faster than before. Just swipe the cat across a special Q code and watch the exact web page you want download right before your eyes. No more clicking through pages looking for specific information. Try it on the 2001 Radio Shack catalog, the world's first fully interactive catalog, and look for the Q codes in our monthly newspaper inserts. Faster, smarter. The Q Cat, another innovative product to make your life easier. Available at Radio Shack.
It was the weird cat-shaped
barcode
scanner
that you could buy and plug up to your computer.
Yeah,
and
or you get it for free. That's how I got it, was for free, because I know I didn't pay for anything like this. But it was this, you would get it for free and you could use it to scan. But then there was like somehow you were giving away some kind of your data. I'm sure anything free is not free, but I wonder if this might be a little bit of riff on that, because it was like a big news when this movie would have been being made. And then I think it probably bombed by the time the movie came out. But
Probably.
so, you know.
Well, so all of a sudden, right before the big battle starts, in comes 4 plucky young men, de jour.
They're back.
They're all bandaged. 3 of them are in full like bandages, head to toe.
Body
the
casts.
other one has like a neck brace and like some slings and such, and walking with a cane. They survived the plane wreck because they landed the plane in the parking lot of a Metallica concert.
Oh, bad idea.
The Metallica fans beat the crap out of the other 3. And the only reason why the 4th one wasn't in a full bodysuit is because he knew the lyrics to Master of Puppets, I think.
I think it was Enter Sandman.
Well,
Oh, it was Enter Sandman.
yeah,
You're right. It was Enter Sandman. So that's how he survived.
Whew.
So now all of a sudden they're there. It's like, we know that it's subliminal messaging as well. And so now there's 2 bands and the fight ensues. The band wins. The machine that makes the subliminal tracks is destroyed. And then there's some weird lost love story between Fiona, the record CEO, and Wyatt. He calls Y. I don't know.
It's a little weird.
Well, Fiona was one of the subliminal messages was that she was the coolest person in the world.
Right.
That she wanted everybody to know.
So,
Because she had a really bad lisp. And Fiona's played by Parker Posey. I don't know if I mentioned that. And she is hysterical.
Yeah.
She is wonderful. In this movie, just
great
cracks me
job.
up.
Great job.
But she had a lisp, and so she wasn't popular. Well, then we find out Wyatt went to the same high school and had a crush on her. But she probably didn't notice him because he was some albino.
Right. He was also had bad self-esteem and was unlikable.
So now he dressed like he's went off to Europe, supposedly, but he's not British. He just fakes the accent.
Right.
And he wears a lot of makeup, and he has a huge belly too. He took off some sort of like girdle or something.
They're basically not the people they present themselves.
But it's just like
very strange.
Did they not have enough to finish the movie? They had to throw this part in. That part I just was just like but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The government shows up. They see that the jig is up, that the people realize there's subliminal messaging, so they basically make Fiona and Wyatt the fall guys and they lock them up. Our man in the Pentagon lets it slip that messaging in movies are more effective. That's when I realized that this was my favorite movie of all time. At that moment, I was like, you know what? This is the greatest movie I've ever seen.
I think I had the same realization.
It was really, and it's just at that moment, it was just like, I get it. I get it. So now the Pussycats perform the concert live. Alan M. shows up and makes it all about him as he confesses his love. Crowd surfs and says, Josie, I love you. She's having a concert with millions of people pay-per-view. It's not about you, Alan M.
Mm.
But then Josie says, take off the headphones, right? Don't listen to the subliminal. Listen to the music and see if you like the band. And so...
1, 2, 3. Spin around, come back home. You're running out on a line. Sometimes feel I'm going out of my mind. Stunned here waiting for anyone to take the time. Spin around, we get further and further away. Smile and wave, ain't got nothing to say. Stunned here waiting for anyone to take the time to change my mind. It's time. I've been staring at the sun some time. It gets dark inside, but I don't mind. If you're gone, it's like I'm going blind. I can't get
They enjoy the show.
Nice.
Yay.
And so that's what it is. So we talked about the branding, and it is everywhere.
Yeah.
And what's funny to watch it now, there's some brands that aren't there anymore.
Oh, yeah.
The giant America Online Hotel kind of cracks me up. That was some...
Well, it's crazy that starting with the original comic book and TV shows, they went in a really weird direction with the movie. Like, I mean, they could have made it like a really cheesy Disney-esque kind of happy, brainless movie, but they went with this really weird subliminal messaging, subversive kind of plot line.
They did. And it was also very campy, very kind of wink, wink.
Basically, probably made it a hell of a lot better movie, I think.
I think it did, but I think that was one of the reasons they think it didn't do well at the time, because
Right,
they're
yeah.
like, oh, they're marketing this to 12-year-old girls.
You're right.
And they're not marketed to people who might think this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
The cast I thought was 2/3 amazing.
Well, who's the not amazing, Charles?
Okay, well, let's talk about it. The first. So these, like we say, they're high schoolers,
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have Rachel Lee Cook, who's Josie, and I thought she was tremendous. She did a great job. She plays like every role Josie is. Like if she's a tomboy, she plays a tomboy perfectly. She's supposed to be some special glam rock star. She plays it amazingly. She does a really good job. She fits it. She's 22. She's young. She seems like she belongs there.
Right.
She was cast over Maggie Gyllenhaal and Zoe Deschanel.
And Dame Judy Dench. Judy Dench.
That's not Duty.
One more
It's
time,
Dame
Alan.
Judy Dench is what you're trying to say.
Yes. I have a 3-year-old and a 9-year-old. They talk about duty all the time. Yes.
But Rachel
Dame
Lee Cook,
Judi Dench.
amazing. She was great. Rosario Dawson played Valerie, right? She was 22 at the time. You know, she's beautiful. She's a mom, but she's also an amazing actress. She did a great job in this. The other people that they looked at for this, Beyonce,
Wow.
Really?
Aaliyah, and Left Eye Lopez.
Whoa, that would have been crazy.
She really wanted the role, supposedly, but they went with Rosario Dawson, and perfect. And then the studio, they said, okay, the only one we want in this band definitely is Tara Reid as Melody. Because she's just coming off the American Pie movies.
Right. Yeah.
So she's hot, and they want to keep her going.
But she's 26, and she's
So
starting to not
old.
really look
Ew.
like a high schooler anymore.
Yeah.
The other two, they look really fresh-faced. She kind of doesn't look like a high schooler anymore.
You're so judgmental, Charles.
And she's supposed to be kind of a ditzy blonde, but
Well, the character's always been dumb as a sack of bricks.
she doesn't. It doesn't really click to me. Her
Right.
ditzy blonde kind of thing. It's not like there was some ditzy blonde. I think in the 70s and 80s, there's one. I think her name was Judy Landers, who was always like.
Can I help you, miss?
Oh, I hope so. I need some very special jewelry.
Something to go with the coat there. That would be on the second floor.
Oh, no. To go with this. You see, they want me for another centerfold showing everything. Well, almost everything. The almost needs to be covered with the expensive jewels.
Big curly blonde hair, like big doe eyes. She's very busty, and they always either put her in like toddler t-shirts had her like in like some weird like Little House on the Prairie like prim outfits to show she's naive. And like every TV show in the 70s and 80s had this woman to be some damsel in distress. She played a very believable ditzy blonde.
Okay.
Right.
Tara Reid, this is just kind of like
not so much.
You're just kind of. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to do.
Right.
Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
No, but I mean, she's okay. I'll say okay. The other two were perfect.
Well,
is what I'm
great.
saying. And so, if they remake this movie, they have to bring them back in there. They have to keep those two.
Yes,
there.
keep those two.
So I'm very Alan Cummings, Parker Posey. God, they cracked me up so much. They were so good in this.
So here's what confused me about the movie in hindsight. So you have from the source material 2 perfectly good villainous characters. You have Alexander Cabot III and his sister Alexandra.
Well, they weren't really villains.
No, they're villainous enough, and they could have filled the roles of Wyatt Frame and Fiona perfectly well. So I wasn't quite sure why they wanted to like invent these new
Alex
characters.
was kind of a nebbish goofball, like kind of a klutz. I mean, he was
definitely a shaggy, cowardly, shaggy character.
Yeah.
Well, that's how he is in this movie. I mean, he's not like. I wouldn't see him as villainous at all.
No.
And the sister is just kind of like
I'm thinking back to the comic books where Alexander he starts off as a much more mean-spirited Reggie type, and then he sort of evolves into this kind of like, bumbling, stumbling, cowardly idiot.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's interesting though that they didn't. I didn't think like correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, but like Alexander didn't get a lot to do in the movie.
They didn't really know.
So they kind of feel like tacked on in the movie.
They did.
The original part of the thing.
Alan M. was the same way.
Yeah.
They'd made a point of saying he was the sexiest man in Riverdale, which I was like, really? He just kind of seemed generically handsome.
It's a small town, Charles.
Yeah.
It's a small town.
I guess.
Yeah. But the soundtrack did better than the movie.
Yes.
Yeah. The movie was like an actual bomb. I mean, it didn't make its production money back.
It did. Although it's now like a cult favorite.
Yeah, it is.
It's been re-reviewed and it's been judged better than it was.
Yeah, it definitely has.
Especially with the whole satirical, evil corporations backward or the subliminal messaging thing and the.
I mean, Roger Ebert gave it a half a star.
Yeah.
Wow.
Saying it wasn't better than Spice World. In his review. So,
well, I think that was a big comparison. It's like it seemed like they wanted to make, on the face of it, it was supposed to kind of look like a Spice World movie, but then have this satirical intent behind it. But they couldn't get that across in the marketing effectively, I don't think.
Well, I don't think they got across the movie either. I mean, I think that he saw the movie, and I think that probably, it's probably still didn't. I don't think it landed as well, maybe at the time as it does now. Or
and I think they were going for the studio was trying to get a younger audience there, and so the people would appreciate the movie. I think if you will go see the movie now, I think you'll enjoy it. I thought it was a good movie to watch.
I like the switch up of the band from just pure pop to like this punk pop sound. I thought was phenomenal. I think they did a great job with the music.
The song 3 Small Words, love that song.
No, it's got some great tunes.
That's in my Spotify mix now. It keeps popping up all the time. I love it.
It's like other fake band movies, like what was Neil Diamond's fake band movie?
Jazz Singer,
where it had like the movie bomb, but the soundtrack did great.
Yeah.
And this soundtrack went to number 16 and went gold. Went to 16 on the charts. And we said Babyface. We already said Babyface produced it. The vocalist
Kay
was Kay Hanley from Letters to Cleo.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was actually a kind of an odd who's who of other sort of hip indie-ish bands that were involved in the soundtrack and the writing of the songs and production and playing. We had Adam Schlesinger from Fountains of Wayne, a guy from Gigolo Aunts.
Gigolo.
Yeah,
Gigolo Aunts. Yeah.
Okay. Matthew Sweet, who was like a big 90s pop
girlfriend.
Yeah, he's still around. Yeah.
Adam Duritz, Duritz from Counting Crows.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Anna Waronker from That Dog. And of course, Biff Naked. Who can forget Biff Naked? And Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's.
Oh, I love Jane Weedland.
She co-wrote it. And I didn't realize until I researching this that she has another fake band connection because she voices the drummer from the Hex Girls from Scooby-Doo, who we'll, get into at some point in a future episode.
Can she be in our Hall of Fame?
Well, I don't know. They should have
we'll have to look. We'll have to look.
Yeah,
that's only 2, though. I think you need more than 2. Anyway, I think they just did a great job with the music for this, which I think was a critical part of the movie. If they'd blown the music and it was just kind of crappy or wimpy, pop.
I mean, it's a great album. I'll listen to it on its own and everything. I think everybody should.
Agreed.
And speaking of an album that apparently you can't listen to, also 2001 came out. A compilation, right, T-Mike?
Well, yeah. So there's a lot of synergy, it feels like, here in 2001 because, we have the new Josie movie and soundtrack, and we also got the old soundtrack remastered and put back out by Rhino Handmade, which is like a subsidiary of the Rhino Records label. And they put out Stop, Look, and Listen, the Capitol Recordings, which includes the 1970 album.
Right.
And all the singles that weren't on the album. And some
all the stuff from the cereal boxes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh. All the cereal boxes. You don't have to eat any cereal.
Notice T-Mike said Rhino Handmade.
Yes, not Rhino Records itself. Handmade is for like the specialty boutique label.
Yeah.
It was a limited edition of 5,000 copies because even in 2000, even then they couldn't get it to
No, that's how Rhino Handmade. That's her whole modus operandi. It's like these limited editions. You can't really.
I'm a proud owner. Yeah. I'm a proud owner of one of them. Oh, okay, 5,000. So
they are a collect. They are not. I was looking around. I don't think they're on a lot of streaming sites. At least not the one I checked. So yeah. So
it's not like that Wu-Tang Clan album, right?
No, it's not like that. You're not allowed to listen to it. Yeah.
And also in 2001, we didn't just get a movie and a soundtrack and an old soundtrack. We also got a lawsuit.
Yay!
Yeah, so remember good old Don DeCarlo, who completely invented Josie by himself?
Oh, not by himself. He had a French model wife who was in the cat suit.
Him, yes. Well,
ooh la la.
Miss Josie and Dan DeCarlo went to court because they saw this live action movies come out, and they wanted a piece of the pie, naturally.
Okay.
Because he invented the character.
Yes, he did.
Well,
right.
He lost an acrimonious legal battle with Archie Comics over the ownership of it, and Archie Comics also fired him, refused to work with him anymore, although he was,
81 at the time.
81 at the time, although I guess it's nice to know you can keep drawing comics until your 80s.
That said, this is what I wanted to come back to, his claim centered on the fact that he had shopped she's Josie around to
Right.
other syndicates.
Right,
So
but he had
comic
created
strip
it.
comic.
He had created it before.
He has no
brought
proof
it.
of that. So
Oh?
that proof was on these strips, undated strips, apparently.
Oh.
And his wife said in his obit, when she was interviewed by the New York Times, that he had a letter but he threw it away. And so,
Well, it was like
basically-
40 years prior.
Yeah, but I mean, basically, he had no evidence that he actually had shopped these things around. So Archie Comics' claim was like, well, this was a work for hire
for
thing.
hire,
And
yeah.
so they
Well,
basically were saying, well, you don't have any rights to that.
Well, even if he could have proven it, the courts basically said you shouldn't have waited 40 years.
Yeah.
So basically, the courts didn't even really judge the claim on the merit of whether he did it or not before he brought it to Archie Comics. But basically, it's like, now you waited too long. It's too late now.
Yeah.
So, and it was a bad year for the Josie the Pussycats in a way because the movie bombed and DiCarlo died.
Yes.
In 2001, December. So sad.
So the movie didn't do well. DiCarlo died.
Yeah.
They were planning actually making another animated series, but that didn't get, if the movie didn't take off, it got shelved. I mentioned.
Do you think they might have put like a band on tour if the movie had like gone crazy?
Possibly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think now because
she
they
didn't
were
do it.
famous,
She didn't do her. Probably not because she didn't do her own singing.
Right.
But I think also because people were seeing like, oh, this is Rachel Lee Cook as Josie. It wasn't like in the anime thing was like, oh, we don't know who this person really is. So yeah. But we didn't really see on TV, at least, or movies. We didn't see anything till Riverdale. There was like a multiple, and Tim, you can kind of cover this, but there were multiple reboots in the comics. There was like manga and
So in 2017, we get the Riverdale series, but before then, the band keeps popping up in the Archie Comics universe. There was a manga version in 2005 where the band was given a retconned backstory. There was an interesting story in 2012 in the Archie Comics 636. I'm going to stop for a minute there and go, Archie Comics number 636, people. Remember when we said this started in the 40s? We weren't kidding.
That's Sweet Valley levels right there.
Yeah. So there was a story called The Great Switcheroo where Sabrina the Witch casts a spell that gender reverses the entire town of Riverdale, including Josie and the Pussycats, who turn into Joey and the Junkyard Dogs.
Oh.
Joey and the Junkyard Dogs.
Oh, it's a nastier version of that.
Something in there.
Joey, and the Junkyard Dogs. Joey, and the Junkyard Dogs.
Yeah. There was there was also a series in 2013 called the Afterlife with Archie series, which depicts an alternative Archie universe where the zombie apocalypse starts in Riverdale. And
gotta start somewhere.
It does.
Zombies got to be somewhere. And Josie the Pussycats are revealed to be vampires who've been alive for like 100 years and have actually secretly been all these other bands in their history.
Oh.
Are vampires immune to zombies?
I think so. I don't know. Apparently. Anyway. So in 20,
I don't honestly know.
They still have brains. I guess they could.
Maybe
be.
there's no body heat or something.
It's just an
The
interesting-
zombies can't see the body heat or something.
I don't know.
Is that the one where they can't talk in the movie where you have to be quiet?
No, that was the birds, the evil birds movie.
That was the Quiet Place one.
Oh, The Quiet Place.
I
Is that the one?
don't want to.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I love though is in the 2015, the Pussycats went on a world tour with the Archies, the Bingos, and the briefly aforementioned Madhouse Glads.
Oh, the guy with the afro, the hippie.
Yeah, Clyde did it. Yeah, so
Clyde
they
did it.
actually dug up the Madhouse Glads and this other weird, obscure Archies band, the Bingos, and they had all, what was that, 4 or 5? Four bands go on to a world tour for a 4-issue sort of mini story arc. And that was like, wow. I thought that was really interesting. And then actually the Josie's got a rebooted comic book of their own, but for only 9 issues in 2016, 2017.
And that was largely on the back of Riverdale, which came on. It came in 2017. You know, have you guys seen any Riverdale?
Is it Korean?
No, I forgot about that. Yeah,
is it for young people? No.
It's a very odd. I mean, it's kind of captivating in a weird way, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, boy, I can't imagine sitting through more of this, but it is like,
well, you are old, Alan.
I don't know this old. It's just kind of like, it has this weird mix of like, these are these characters that I know from comics. No. I didn't read Archie comics, but like I recognize these names. And then but it's this very soapy kind of.
So it's kind of like a Melrose Place show, but it's all like if it was like Scooby-Doo characters that were all put in differently.
There's like a murder, and it was apparently it started as, I think it was a movie plot they pitched, and then they made it into a series, and it lasted 7 seasons. So they know what they're doing. But
and they had spin-off series.
Yeah,
it was like
they had multiple spin-offs. Yeah.
Katie Keene was like a spin-off series, and
the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina it counts as a kid spin-off. But so in Riverdale, but she shows up in Riverdale. Josie and the Pussycats show up there. She's played by Ashley Murray, and Melody is Asha Broomfield, and Valerie's played by Haley Law, which all 3 are black. Or in the words of, I think it's been changed since then, but at one point, when I was doing research to this, I noticed the Wikipedia thing. It said that Ashley Murray played her as African American, and I was like, played Josie as African American. I'm like, is she in blackface? It's like she's black herself. Like, what do you mean she plays her as African American? That's a really
she really
weird
couldn't
way of
do
putting
anything
it.
else, could she?
Yeah, it's a very weird way of putting it, but I think they fixed that line. But I was amused by that.
It's just a wording thing.
But yeah, given Valerie's TV history, it's kind of funny that they ended up making the band all black. And
it's an interesting take on it.
So she was a regular until the beginning of season 4, and then she left to become one of the leads in Katie Keene, which is a COVID era show that like nobody really watched.
Well, it got canceled because of COVID.
Yeah,
I've never even heard of it.
One season.
It only lasted 1 season. It got not bad reviews, but it's basically 4 young people kind of trying to make it in New York.
And Josie was one of them.
Yeah, and it's set 5 years after the show. So
Riverdale.
She's Riverdale. So she was a young adult. So she was like actually closer.
Okay.
TMX precious Tara Reid could come play her.
I don't care about Tara Reid. Stop it. Yeah, but she becomes Josie becomes like our big platinum.
Yeah.
A huge mega million selling platinum album star.
Yeah, and then she comes back to Riverdale for kind of special, like a couple special episodes or whatever. They had like a big reunion kind of revival, return show. But so now that Riverdale's off the air, which went off earlier this year.
That was last year, I think, 2023.
2023. Oh, yeah, it is 2024. Wow, God. Ever since COVID, I'm like screwed. I don't know. I don't know what day it is. Yeah.
It's been a few years since COVID, Alan.
Yeah.
You got to pick it up.
No, I know. That's why I said ever since. Uh-huh. That's how English works. Anyway, Josie's back to only appearing in comics.
Professor.
Oh, it's getting chippy at the Remple house.
Anyway, Josie's back only appearing in comics, but the good thing is we'll always have that theme song.
Josie and the Pussycats, long tails and ears perhaps, guitars and sharps and flats, neat, sweet, a groovy song, you're invited, come along. Hurry, hurry, see all the pleasure, or maybe plans, we could be an ninja or perchance, be with us in Bangkok, makes no difference everywhere the action's at, we're involved with this or that. Come on along now, Josie and the Pussycats. No time for tag. Won't run when they hit scat. There where the plot begins. Yeah. Come on, what's the good guys win? Josie and the Pussycats. Josie and the Pussycats.
And it's a classic.
It is a classic.
I love that. The music is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the music from the cartoon. I love it from the movie. You got to listen.
Yeah.
And I know you all love it too, because how many of you people asked us to do a Josie the Pussycat?
Seriously. Now shut up about it.
It was crazy. Hey, you guys going to do Josie the Pussycat? Yeah, we're eventually going to do it.
Yeah.
I would say stop bugging us, but keep bugging us to do stuff.
Oh, no. Please tell us the ones you want to hear.
Send us your requests. We'll do what we can. We want to hear what you want to hear.
We have, unless it's just do the Josie show again.
Well,
with different facts this time.
Do it again, but make it right.
Yes, yeah. So.
All right, I'm Charles. There's Alan.
I'm T Mike and not Alan or Charles.
That's Alan again.
I'm still Alan. I don't know.
I don't know what happened there. This has been the Rocklopedia Fake Bandica. Thank you for listening. You've been listening to the Rocklopedia Fake Bandica, a production of the Van Gogh Sketch Comedy Group. The hosts are Alan Benson, T. Mike Childs, and Charles Rempel, with occasional cameos from Jason Torchinsky, Galen Black, and Rob Terrell. Our technical deities are Rob Terrell and Galen Black. If you've enjoyed this, please be sure to subscribe to the Rocklopedia so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you, so leave a review, email us at fakebands@bgg.com, and join our Discord server, Rocklopedia Fake Bandica. Don't forget to visit fakebands.com and the mothership, VGG.com. Thanks for listening.